Ireland's coastal heritage is made up of several different elements. Some of it relates to our history and to our past cultures, and we have physical sites like here at Fort Campden. Others relate to our natural world, species of birds and marine mammals, and also our geology and different types of habitat like wetlands and salt marshes and lagoons and other things that we have along the coasts. We also have a whole intangible side as well. What do we mean by intangible heritage? Well, we mean the stories, the music, the place names, and these in fact are what actually animate the actual, and actually bring life and understanding in a way to some of these more sort of inanimate objects like our forts. What is interesting about coastal heritage compared to other aspects of heritage is the fact that we've neglected it and we don't know very much about it. This is almost due to a lot of historical background, in the sense that the coasts quite often have been under-surveyed almost from the outset of our national mapping programmes with the first edition of the Ordnance Survey, and even up to sort of present day, while we're doing the offshore, we're not necessarily doing a lot in the intertidal areas. So there are a lot of sites and places that we're still unaware of. Because the coast is such a dynamic space, there's also the whole issue about if we don't know what we have, we don't know what we're losing. And anyway, what are we actually talking about? Well, we're talking about specific sites and places like this at Fort Campden, sort of defensive sites. And those go right back, maybe even into the 5,000 years. We have forts we've been trying to defend our country, or countries. We've used the coasts as places to harvest food, be it fish, be it shellfish. We've used it as places to extract resources, stone and sands and timber in cases as well. And then we've tried to defend ourselves from sort of people coming in from the sea. We've also set off and gone out there. We also now, in present day, we have, it's a desirable area to live. We've got a growth of a whole maritime and coastal tourism side. And we have rising sea levels and climate change as well. So a lot of our coastal sites are slightly under pressure from a sort of myriad of reasons, ranging from total neglect to over-attention. So when we talk about the coastal heritage, what does that actually mean? What does that come to mind? Much of our cultural heritage of the coast relates to physical reminders of past activities. Or activities now that have evolved due to technologies. We have a lot of things that relate to transportation, starting obviously with lighthouses and other signal towers. We have other sites that relate to things like defence, including, say, the Martello Towers, or these more 19th century large fortifications like here at Fort Campden. We also have our port structures. Let's remember that some of our ports are the earliest almost urban developments sprung up around particularly our Viking ports. And we also have places that relate to processing fish such as mackerel, herring, activities that now are far less important to our coastal communities and to our country. Much of this heritage is under pressure, partly due to other pressures, but in part also due to the fact that it is perhaps lesser known and more neglected. As a result, many of our cultural heritage sites have been invigorated by being adopted by community groups who have recognised their value to their particular area and have taken steps to try and protect and animate these sites. Here, Fort Campden is a very good example of that, where a local community group have joined up with the County Council and with FOSS to develop a programme in order to protect and also to conserve the site and to turn it into a source of, to turn it into, as it were, a tourism site, but also into something that creates a sense of place here at the mouth of Cork Harbour. These type of projects are reflected around the country as well. There are a few that also have been found particularly on forts up around Lough Swilly. We have Ned's Fort and also Fort Dumree. We also have a slightly larger development going on led by Cork County Council on Spike Island. We have the Lone Hort Battery also on Bear Island. We also have, in relation to the Commission of Irish Lights, have undertaken a new initiative linking up with both local groups, as in Wexford, say at Hook Head, in Kerry, with Valentia Island, the islanders, and also again up in Donegal with Fanad. They're also working with the Irish Landmark Trust to turn some of the lighthouses into holiday lets. This scheme has been expanding, particularly along the north coast, where now I think there are something like 5 or 6 lighthouses you can rent from Donegal across to County Down, as well as the existing ones along the south coast. It's a way of helping people engage directly with their heritage, because you can literally experience either by staying in the lighthouse keeper or in some cases the actual lighthouse itself. But at the same hand, it brings a new life and a new energy to the buildings. Many of these buildings are extremely difficult to look after. They are in very harsh environments, very close to the sea, or perhaps something that you might not necessarily want to move into, such as the one we have here. And they are structurally expensive to maintain. So a new use, such as holiday lets, is probably the most viable way of looking after a place in the long term. Or other places, such as the new project out on Bear Island for the Lone Hawk Battery, they're looking to activities around the arts, art exhibitions, art happenings. They're also considering things like stargazing, dark sky observation, to sort of pull people into the site. While the military history is of course fascinating, it maybe isn't the only aspect of a site that attracts people. We also have now, in recent years, as there's greater pressure on our biodiversity, these sites have developed a whole interest around their natural side. And we have, in a way, what looks like sort of scrubby, uninteresting undergrowth now is extremely valuable shelter for small birds, as well as also for pollinators, not just our honeybees, but bumblebees and other types of flying insect. So when we look at a site, and let's take this one here at Fort Camden, there are a number of different values that it has for the people around the area, for the animals and birds that live within it, and then for the greater story of Ireland's interaction with its coast.